All right. Welcome, everybody. Let's get started. We are drawing today, and for those of you who haven't been here the past couple days or who are new, Daily Sketch Grind, we get together every morning, 10 a.m., and we draw to get better. And lately, I've just been doing reference studies just because I want to build up my visual library, and that's what I've been getting the most value out of. So we're going to stick with that. You can draw whatever the heck you want. It's totally up to you. There's a Facebook group that you can post in, share your work, show your improvement. Yeah. So as usual, we like to start out with a 5-minute warm-up just to loosen up the old drawing muscles, get the juices flowing. So we go ahead and set that to 5 minutes. If you didn't notice, today my study's gonna be Crocodile. And yeah, let's warm up. As always, you can put questions that you have in the chat. Caleb here, my assistant, will be reading them off to me and help moderating the chat so I can kind of focus on drawing. And also, we can talk about, pretty much anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be art related, but it totally can be. Your wish is my command.
So I would love to know what people are going to be drawing today, what references you guys are going to be using. Okay, I'm not sure what this is, but Sophia says, "Good morning, piping plover."
Yeah, I have no idea what that is either. I don't know. Maybe that's like a greeting from where you're from. Piping plover to you too. Oh, maybe that's what she's drawing. Is that a bird?
That's what I thought she is.
A piping plover? Sounds like a bird. Maybe I'm wrong.
And then Kira, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Kira.
Chibis?
Yeah,
Chibis.
No, I was talking about the username. I didn't know how to pronounce the username.
Oh. Espen Johansson?
No, the one saying Chibis.
Oh. Kirax Chaos. Kirax Chaos, I'd guess.
Nailed it. Espen Johansson's trying to draw a God of War inspired monkey.
Oh, what does that look like? That sounds kind of cool.
And Sophia confirmed that a piping plover is a bird.
Oh yeah, that's right. I got it on my second try.
And it's Kira X Chaos.
Gotcha. Like you Your name is Kira,
Like from
and
Death Note.
oh, okay, yeah, never seen it. Well, I kind of saw part of the live action version, and I was like, this is some kind of weird acting. Interesting concept. The voice actor for the demon was pretty good, though. What's his name? Can't remember his name. The guy he's in like Spider-Man, plays the Green Goblin. William Dafoe. That was some good voice acting there they picked. He's freaking creepy.
Kira says, ha 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 ha, that scream though.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
If a demon showed up and gave me that book, he's like, you'd kill anybody, I would be like, what's your name? And I wouldn't even kill him. I'd be like, I don't know anything about you. I'm not demonist, okay? Maybe you're a good guy. I don't want to kill anyone. You keep your book. All right, well, time is up. Okay, you can tell I'm in a good mood when I make up songs. My wife knows this very well. Let's draw Crocodile here. Get bigger. All right. So I picked this one on purpose because it's a little bit harder since it's kind of in perspective and sort of facing us a little bit. Because I have a pretty good idea of what crocodiles look like from the side. I've drawn them before, but I want one where it's like not. It's from a different angle.
You sort of explained it, but could you just go into more detail what you mean by something being in perspective, and just some of those terms that people might not be familiar with?
Mm-hmm. So in perspective, meaning that the parts that are closer to your eyes appear bigger, and as they get farther away from your eye, they seem to recede or appear smaller. So, like, for example, I'll draw over this image here so you can see what I'm talking about. Looking at this crocodile, we have this, we have this part of his mouth, right? And if we compare it to like the back of his head, it's like this, almost the same size, right? But in reality, if we were actually looking at a crocodile and measured it, the point of his face is really small. It tapers to basically a rounded point. And it's not actually the same size, but because of the perspective, the nose, the snout is a lot closer to the lens of the camera, and so it appears bigger. And being able to accurately represent that will make your drawings look a lot more realistic than not drawing them in perspective. And typically when something is just kind of from a side view, you can't really see a lot of the perspective because there's not parts of the body that recede far enough to make it very observable. But in this position where it's like coming towards us, you can see a little bit more. So, and I'm really going to have to focus on trying to figure out how to simplify the shape of this guy because he's kind of complex.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people starting off with that, with drawing that face, would be kind of a daunting task because they wouldn't know where to start.
There's like so many details and bumps, and like it's not clearly defined, like circles and rectangles and squares. Yeah, I even feel like that. It never goes away when you look at it and you're like, ah, shit. How am I gonna draw this? This looks so hard. But you just gotta jump in and be like, basic shapes. You can just sing to yourself the song. Never mind. I'm not gonna do that. That was gonna be so cheesy.
Do it. Sing it.
No. No way.
Sing the song.
I was gonna
Austin.
sing the song. You know the one. What's it called? Where they're like. Nah, I'm not.
Do it.
No.
Sing it.
I would lose all respect from everyone on my channel.
Oh, please. Wolfie Chan says, sing us the song.
Forget it. It's not happening. If you're here for the song.
Shizne, sing it.
I forgot it. Too late.
Oh, whatever.
Make up your own song to remember it, okay? This is a crocodile.
Wolfie Chan says, what about the Crocodile Rock? You should sing that.
I don't know that song. I know Jingle Bell Rock, but I have a strict no Christmas songs except at Christmas time policy, so.
Isn't Crocodile Rock like an old, like, classic rock song? Come on. You don't know that song?
I don't. Do you know that song? Maybe you should sing it.
Well, I mean, I don't know the words or anything.
You have a
I just know
history in musical theater, don't you?
Yes, I do. But
So
that doesn't mean I know the words.
Make them up.
It's by Elton John, apparently.
I thought that was Crocodile Tears.
I think so. Because I don't think Crocodile Rock is by Elton John.
I don't think so either.
I'm gonna look it up.
I'm pretty sure he has a song called Crocodile Tears, but maybe I could be wrong. I mean, I'm almost never wrong, but I could be.
No, it is Crocodile Rock by Elton John.
All right, well, I guess I'm wrong.
And it starts off, well, crocodile rocking is something shocking.
That's weird.
How do you feel about that?
I guess.
Movie Chan said, learned something new today. Talking about us learning something new today, because he was the one that told us it was by Elton John. So. What's your favorite song, Austin?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite song. I like a lot of music. Actually, right now, I'd probably say the song Excavate by Macklemore. listen to it. It's amazing.
What are some things that you're observing while you're doing this drawing of this crocodile?
The curvature of like the jaw, like how you kind of have like this pattern of like ridges of teeth that interlock, but the teeth don't just interlock, like the kind of like flow of the jaw itself interlocks together. And something that I always when I would first draw animals and creatures and stuff, especially if I try and draw them out of my head, is I would never realize how wide a mouth gets, like especially if it's something with a long snout. When I would draw it from the angle, for example, like let's say I'm drawing this guy from an angle and I'm trying to draw him with his mouth open, I would always draw the jaw as way too narrow, like that. I could never figure out why that looked weird to draw it like that, and it's because I wasn't giving it the proper width, when in reality it'd probably be something more like that, which kind of seems counterintuitive at first. But that's how it actually looks most of the time, because these creatures, their heads aren't like flat like a piece of paper. They're usually shaped like a triangle. Like if you look at them from above, they're shaped like this, not this. So you can see that in the crocodile, for example, how far over the corner of his mouth gets over here. And then when I get to the, I'll probably be taking lots of mental notes when I get to like the scales and the teeth and stuff like that, and how those are kind of placed on the body.
Tiziana Terhar, and I'm really sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm sure I did. Says, I am pretty new to your channel, and I enjoy listening to you while I have you on a split screen. You on the left, my own drawing in Procreate on the right.
Nice. What are you drawing?
Tiziana said some complicated flower.
Oh, cool.
I am new, so everything is complicated still.
Oh, practice makes perfect. Way to be sticking it out and jumping into things that are difficult.
So Wolfie Chan is asking, where do I show you my drawing again? And that's just on the Facebook page. And the link to it is in the beginning, is posted in the beginning of this chat for this video. And you can also post your artwork, your sketches and drawings on Instagram using hashtag sketchgrind. So I know we've kind of moved on, but I'm curious to know what everyone's favorite song is, since we were talking about that a minute ago. Just curious. We're at 10:30, just so you know.
All right. Halfway there.
Tiziana says, 2 days ago you told me to use the technical pencil with the opacity at max. How come your lines look still light as pencil strokes? I like that.
Because I'm pushing lightly and because I'm not painting all the way black, probably. Because like if I could draw really black and it would look like that, but I keep my pencil pretty light and loose because I'm doing like the underdrawing.
So it looks like with that pencil and the way you have it set, the harder you press, obviously the darker it gets, but also the thicker the lines get, which is not always the case unless you set it that way. Is that correct?
This brush in Procreate that's its default settings. All I did was increase the max size of it.
Oh, okay.
Like how big it gets when you push.
Cool.
I mean, not all brushes are like that. That's true, but this one is.
The Shiznay is asking, can you discuss your experience as a concept artist? What the daily life at the studio or freelance was like, and how was it working with bigger clients / projects?
Well, I don't really know if we worked with any really big clients. It wasn't like I didn't work at Disney. Most of the stuff we worked on were like animation for commercials or like a short pilot episode for like an animated cartoon that people were trying to pitch or stuff like that. When I worked at a studio, and basically I would go in every day to my little workstation, bring my have my computer set up and stuff, and then get like the prompt, or like not the prompt, but the brief for the day, like what it was we were going to be working on, or if I was just going to be continuing, or like sometimes I would just be finishing up stuff from the day before. And you would basically work. I would put it in, we use Slack, so I'd put the file in the Slack drive, tag whoever was above me, like my art director, whoever's ahead on that project, for sign off or critique, and they'd come back and give you notes, like circle things that you need to change or fix and stuff, or sign off that it was good, and then kind of direct you towards the next thing. And it was all right. I mean, it was nice to be in a creative environment with other people and be like working on something towards a finished project. Yeah, pretty much just do that every day. A ton of revisions. You send it back, and you fix this, and you change this, make his head a little bigger, make his skin a little darker, do this, do it. Like most of the time, you would be doing a lot of revisions. And sometimes you'd get lucky, and on the first try, they'd just be like, yeah, actually, that works out really good. And then a lot of times it would take a long time because they'd have to be like, okay, that looks good. Let's get it signed off by the client. And then the client they'd have to send it to the client. And the client isn't always very fast in response. So sometimes you have to wait a whole day. And then they get back to you and be like, yeah, we don't like that. We want it to be more like this, or we do like it, but we just wanted to change this one thing, or different stuff. Or they might even sign off and then later down the road be like, we changed our mind. That happened before. So that was, I don't know, that was like the gist of it. And I don't know, it was a good learning experience. Eventually, though, the studio wasn't doing very well, and they didn't have I don't know. My brother worked there with me, and we both felt like they took advantage of us quite a bit, not paying us for jobs we did for like various weird reasons. Like taking credit for designs we did, like taking personal credit with the client and stuff, like just weird stuff that we're like, all right. So I worked there for a little while, and then after that is when I decided to go freelance. And then doing freelance wasn't that much different, except for that I was the art director, I guess, but still like giving a lot of feedback from clients. I mean, when you work traditional, not so much, because they're just like, this is what it is, unless you like really mess up. But like when you're working digitally, they just kind of like, I can revision as much as I want. So I started putting that in my contracts that like, hey, this is how much I charge, and here's how many revisions you get with that. Otherwise, I would be ending up spending way too much time because they would just be infinitely tweaking and changing things. And Um, but yeah, I mean, it didn't happen all the time. I'm kind of highlighting like the worst parts of it because those are the reasons why I stopped doing it. Not all jobs are like that. And it also makes it sound like I was a really bad concept artist because I always had to do revisions, but that's a normal part of doing concept art. That's why it's concept art, is because you come up with different concepts, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't and stuff. But yeah, it wasn't bad. And then the freelance life, yeah, you just kind of like going from job to job, working on stuff. So that was pretty much it. Hope that answered your question. Hope I passed.
Mhm. Renzo is saying, I've been doing my daily grind on my iPad like you, but as I'm a beginner, I decided to get a little sketchbook today for gesture drawings and things like that. Just mess around while I'm at school and stuff.
Nice. School is such a good time to draw.
Yeah, my notes from high school and stuff are all covered with doodles and drawings and.
Yep. Same.
I drew a ton in high school, and that really helped me a ton.
Yeah, it's amazing what boredom can do for your art skills. When they're just like, hey, you're in this box, the only thing you have is paper and pencil. You can sit here, you can do the assignment, or you can draw. Okay, I'll draw. I'll do the little bit of the assignment I need to not get in big trouble by my parents, and then I'll draw.
So I'm seeing you drawing these little details, these little scales and things on this crocodile,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking, for somebody starting out, for beginners, they might get overwhelmed with things like that, with little details and things, and might not know where to start. And so, I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like just starting anywhere is a good place to start. I don't think there's really a necessary formula or uh, you know start here every single time. And I think a lot of people get scared when they have a good sketch. They're scared to put in the details or put in color or put in whatever
Mm-hmm.
they think the next step is, and sometimes they just give up. What would you have to say about that?
Well, as far as the detail goes, yeah, you can start anywhere. Make sure you don't start doing any detail till you really get like the underlying sketch down first. That will save you a lot of difficulty. So really get like the underdrawing down good. But then when you do go into the detail, especially if you're doing like a study or a sketch like this, I mean, it depends on what the purpose or the point of the drawing is and the level of finish you need. But like for this, for example, right now, what I'm trying to get out of this is understanding just kind of like how the scales work and what like they sort of like, I guess, like the essence of it. Like I'm not looking at this and drawing every single scale individually exactly how it is on the actual crocodile at all. That's not even close to what I'm doing. What I'm doing is looking at it and being like, okay, this is about what it looks like. I want to try and represent that in a way that when someone looks at it, they can tell what it is without having to perfectly draw every single scale that I see, because I'm just trying to do a quick study and that's going to take a long time. And I want to be able to get this information out on paper quickly with as little lines as possible. I guess maybe not as little as possible because you could probably do less, but without having to basically take a photograph with my pencil, so to speak. So that's sort of like the mindset I think to approach it with. In my opinion, and I'm just now realizing that I think this eye should be way closer to the other eye. Anyways, like that. What was I saying? Yeah, just start somewhere, and this is the thing. When you start out drawing, your first drawings are probably gonna suck. You just gotta keep practicing. Practice, 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 and slowly you'll start to get better, and you'll feel like your drawings don't suck as bad. And then you'll get a point where you kind of level up, and then you'll start feeling like your drawings suck again, and you'll be like, wow, I feel like I made all this progress, but now I still suck at drawing. And you just gotta keep going. That's normal. That means you're improving in your art skills and that your standard of quality for what's good or acceptable has gone up, that's a good sign. So just keep going. Just keep working at it.
Renzo is saying that he's learning perspective at the moment, saying it's pretty easy to understand, but they still struggle putting it into their drawings.
Well, then I would say you don't actually really understand it. And that's not like an insult or anything. I'm just saying, like, if you can't put it in your drawings, then you don't actually understand how it works. You might be able to see it and be like, I guess I can recognize that as perspective, but that you would need to kind of keep studying the fundamentals some more so that you actually do understand it enough to be like, okay, I understand how this works. I understand how it gets put into drawings and like what I need to do when I do it. Or the other possibility is that you haven't gotten enough mastery over control of your lines and stuff to be able to accurately put down on paper what you know in your head, which is the other possibility, in which case you just need to keep practicing drawing more, and I'd practice drawing from life and reference and stuff like that.
Sparky Sap has a great question. I'm not confident in my skills. How do you know when you're fully prepared to apply for internships or studio jobs?
You don't. You just do it. That's the secret. Well, I mean, actually, well, yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. You don't, but you can get a guess. You can get sort of like an approximation, and one way would be to be comparing your work to people who are in that industry. Does your work hold up to theirs at all? Like if you're wanting to get a job at a studio that does apps, for example, makes like games and stuff for mobile or whatever, can you make images of similar quality without just like copying theirs, but can you make images of similar quality on your own? And if the answer is yes, then go for it. But you'll honestly never really know. If you knew, that would mean you already had a job because someone would have come up to you and said, hey, your stuff is good enough. Come work for me. So you kind of have to just take a risk, but I would err on the side of sooner rather than later most of the time. but that would be my advice.
And I'd say if you're worried about getting hired, or if you're worried about getting rejected, I should say, I mean, you're already not hired by that company right now, so you might as well try.
Yeah, and just it's okay. I don't know if you're really if you're feeling like you either don't have enough experience or you're just not sure. You could do what I did and my brother did and approach like a smaller studio first and basically be like, hey, we don't have a lot of experience, but we'll start out working for free. And if you think that we're good or like valuable, then you can start paying us. And if not, then you can drop us. And they were like, okay. And that's how we got our first jobs at animation studios.
Tizzy is saying, will you in a future video also do some coloring, as I tend to only work in black and white? Coloring digitally is still a challenge.
Not for daily sketch grind, but I already have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel on coloring, as well as an entire Udemy course on light and color that you can totally check out. It's full of great information all about color and light and all that stuff. And as always, I actually think I have someone in my inbox right now that I need to respond to about this. So if you're in the chat, sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I've just been busy. But if you really can't afford it, like you absolutely cannot afford it, you're really on tough times or whatever, I'm always willing to work stuff out with people and work out a solution where they can learn. I want everyone to have the opportunity to be able to have access to education. So if you really can't afford it, or you can't afford as much as it costs or whatever, we could work something out, make it less, or even free if that's the position you're in. But I just trust that people won't take advantage of me or that and my hard work, and if they can afford to pay me, they will, and if not, well, I still want people to be able to have access to that, especially if they're young people.
So I added a link, just included the link to your digital painting course on Udemy.
I should also
just approve that link.
Oh yeah, I'll also mention that you all through the month of January everything is on sale, so for everything's $9.99. So now's a good time if you were going to take any of this.
Wolfie Chan has a great question. Do you need to go to art college to become a concept artist?
The answer to that is a big fat no. You absolutely do not. I'll tell you what you do need, though. You need to be really good at what you do. You don't need to be the best in the world or a protege, but you need to have practiced and studied really hard and gotten really good. And this is whether you go to college or not. There's people kind of give you this impression that as long as you get a degree, you'll be able to get a job. There's a whole bunch. In fact, the vast majority, the last time I looked at the stats, it was like less than 15% of people who graduate get it with a degree. It was like 40% of people who graduate with a degree end up having a job that requires a degree at all. The other 60% end up getting a job that didn't even require a degree. And even in that 40%, only 15% of all the people who get a degree actually have a job that relates to the degree at all. Only 15%. So even if you get a degree in concept art, that still doesn't guarantee that you're going to be making concept art. What is going to get you a job is being really good at what you do, and that can be accomplished with or without college. Studios are not going to care whether or not you have a degree if you can make amazing concept art. They'll take the concept art. They'll take a great concept artist over any schmuck with a degree any day. And a lot of studios have, if you go to apply to their site, it'll say things like, they want you to have a degree. But if you present them with your portfolio, like at a conference or something like that, and it's good, they're not going to care about that. They don't care about that at all. The only reason they have that up there is because they have so many applicants. That's kind of like their best guess at how to weed out people that are going to be a waste of their time. But that's not like a hard and fast rule. Studios who have that as a requirement hire people all the time who don't have degrees. So I'm not saying it's easy or anything like that. You have to be really, really, really good, or else you will get ignored. But you definitely don't need a degree. And I personally don't think you should get one, mostly because it's going to put you likely in a lot of debt. It's going to be really expensive. And I think it gives a lot of people a really bad mindset that ends up hindering their success more than it helps it. It kind of gives you like a permission-based mindset, from my experience, and kind of like a waiting to be told what to do, entitlement attitude that I've just seen hurt so many people. So that's some of my thoughts. And I do not have a degree. Granted, I guess I'm not necessarily like a professional concept artist right now anymore, since I mostly do Udemy courses and YouTube and draw my own stuff. But
Wolfie Chan says, "Oh geez, okay, I better work my butt off. Thanks, that's comforting."
yep.
I think honestly, it really is comforting to hear what you said, because it really means that your success is up to you. So it really is in your hands as an artist.
Yeah. Some people, that's like kind of scary. I think that's another reason why some people find college so comforting, is because it kind of, in some ways, I think in people's heads, it takes the accountability out of their hands. Because if they don't get a job, they can be like, yeah, I just don't know what to do. I have a degree, but no one will hire me. The job market just sucks. It's like, well, why should they hire you? Like, what are you doing to convince them that you're going to provide enough value to be worth the money they're giving you to work for them? Because that's what they're trying to figure out. When a business is hiring someone, what they're thinking to themselves is this person going to cost me more money than they're ultimately going to help my business make? Or is this person going to help me make more money than they're going to cost me? And if you're going to cost them more money than you're going to help them make, there's no point in them hiring you. You're hurting their business. So you need to be, whether you have a degree or not, you need to be able to showcase skills that someone can look at and be like, yeah, this person, they have really good art. This is going to be make my whatever project I'm working on be really good because they're really good at what they do. I want to hire them because they're going to be able to help my company grow and be successful with their skills and stuff.
There are a few comments that are along the same lines. Comical Food saying, "I graduated with architecture degree and now jumping into the art world." And so I think that's awesome to to be jumping into something new. Sometimes people get a degree and feel like they're done learning, and I know you feel like that's totally a bad mindset, Austin,
Oh
and
yeah.
that we should all be lifelong learners. Also, Tizzy is saying, my son graduated as a voice major and has a great job now as a senior network engineer. No degree at all. I got my teaching degree and became editor in chief. Never took any journalism course.
Oh, there you go. It's you're in school, especially. Oh man, especially like public schools, like high school and junior high and stuff like that. You just taught that grades are so important, a degree is so important, but in the real world, what's important is what value you can bring. Can you get the job done? Can you give me what I need? Can you meet my requirements? If you can do those things, they don't care about your credentials. They don't care about any of that stuff. They just want to know, can you do it? There's some cases where it's legally required, unfortunately. Um, and the government has kind of stepped in and intervened and kind of messed with people's natural inclinations of the free market, but for good or for bad, I suppose. But cases where it's not legally required, people honestly, and especially now, you're seeing more and more businesses drop the requirement for a degree to hire people because it's just become less and less of a necessity. Especially with the internet, it's like you can learn anything you want online. Why would you, probably for free even, or at least a lot cheaper than college, why would you spend all that money when you could just go online and learn it there?
Wolfie Chan says, I'm glad I don't have to go into debt just to follow my passion.
Yeah, me too. I've also heard people, hate this one. I've heard people make this argument that they're like, college, yeah, you get in debt, but college is an investment. I'm making an investment in myself, which it's like, okay, you want to look at it as an investment, that's fine. Let's look at it as an investment. This is an investment. What is your ROI? What's your return on investment? So you're putting in this much money. How much money are you likely to get back? What are the chances that you're going to make it back? How much of a return are you going to get? Like how much on top of what you invested are you going to get back? And how long is it going to take? And when you crunch all those numbers, any investor given those stats about an investment, and so, it's going to take this long to make your money back. Here's how much you're going to make back over time and all this stuff. And here's how much you're going to have to invest. Is this a worthwhile investment? They would be screaming, no, that's a horrible investment because the return on investment is so bad. It takes so long to actually see your investment return. It's not nearly big enough of a return to justify the time spent, because it's not just like passive either. It's not just your money you're spending like years and years of active time and money in order to make this investment supposedly get any sort of return. And then even then, there's absolutely no guarantee. The risk is super high that you're not going to get anything back from it. Some people tell me that. I'm just like, you are being told just what your high school life counselor or whatever told you. Which generally I think you should not listen to the advice your high school counselor gives you unless you want to be a high school counselor. Then they probably can tell you exactly what you need to do. If you don't want to be a high school counselor, don't listen to a high school counselor on how to be successful, because they're just going to tell you what they did to become a high school counselor.
Wolfie Chan is asking which companies don't need degrees, and I was hoping to try for Disney or Blizzard Entertainment or just freelance it.
So as somewhat of a general rule, there's always exceptions. Typically, the more corporatized a company gets, the more strict their policies and the more kind of like universal they make things. So like I would say at the very top would be Disney, with the degree requirement, but even Disney still hires people who are really good at what they do who don't have degrees. But that would probably be the most difficult one to make that happen with, but still possible. I think it's some people, I think sometimes people, this might be controversial, but I think people sometimes have this idea of hitting their goals at all costs, and I actually don't think that's a good idea. I think you need to weigh the costs and ask yourself, okay, if I really, really wanted to work at Disney, I can. That is a possibility. That is something I could accomplish. What's it going to cost me if I want to make that happen? And really weigh the costs and be like, is that actually worth it? Because, for example, if you work at Disney, or some of these other really big studios, a lot of times they have some pretty serious crunch time and you're going to be working like 60-hour weeks sometimes, mandatory 60-hour weeks. And you don't really have a choice if that's what you sign up for. Or you might need to get into a lot of debt in order to get a really expensive art degree that you're not necessarily going to be able to pay off very fast on a concept artist salary. So you ask yourself, like, is that worth it, right? Or, maybe you do want to work at Disney really bad, but if you don't go the college path, it's going to take you more time because you're going to have to build up a little bit more clout in the industry and stuff like that before Disney will look at you, different things like that. But I don't know. So for a long time, I was super set that I wanted to be a concept artist. Like, that's all. I was like, I'm going to be a concept artist. I'm going to work at a professional studio, like Weta Workshops in New Zealand or something like that. And I was just so set on doing that. And the first place that I really wanted to work was called The Void. That was like a VR place. And making like interactive VR, like real world stuff that would like connect, that you would be able to like, you could be like in a room that mapped to a real VR place, but you could actually like walk around it and interact with stuff, sort of thing. It was pretty cool. And I was really pretty set on that. And I remember it was right before I very barely launched my first Udemy course. I had made very much money on it, and I was kind of trying to decide if I wanted to keep doing Udemy or if I wanted to go work at this studio. And I was at the studio, and they did like their beta, and they had me come and try out their beta because I'd been talking to some of the people who had worked there and kind of built up some connections. And I just remember doing the thing and walking through and be like, well, that wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be, but it was pretty cool, I guess. And then talking to the people I knew there and being like, asking them like if I could come up and like say hi and stuff. And they were like, man, I really wish you could, but right now we have to get out this project we're working on by this deadline. So we're in crunch time, which means we're not allowed to have visitors and we got to be working like 60, 70-hour weeks. And it just kind of hit me like, man, if I do Udemy, I own my time. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, and work on whatever I want. And I can spend time with my family when I want to. And there's not a pay cap. I can keep making more and more money as long as I put the work in and like provide value to people. And if I work at a studio, someone else is going to own my time. There's going to be a pay cap, and I don't get to decide what I work on or if I like what I work on. And so for me, I realized that that dream of mine wasn't really worth the cost of what it was going to take to get there, and that I valued those other things: freedom of control over my time, no cap on how much money I can make, and the ability to work on things that I was interested in. I realized that was more valuable to me than working at a studio. Now, I'm not dissing or docking anyone who works at a studio. I think that People who work at studios are awesome and make awesome stuff. And I don't think there's absolutely anything wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, then totally go for it and pursue that. But just be aware, like, there are costs and that you should weigh them, because I know a ton of people who got their dream job at Disney and worked there for a while and then voluntarily quit to do other stuff because they just realized, like, it is really demanding, and it just wasn't worth it to them anymore. They weren't getting what they want, which for a lot of people, it's like, why would you ever quit working at Disney? Like, that's the highest you can go. Like, where else would you go after that? Like, that's awesome. But for them, it wasn't worth the price they were paying for it. So yeah, places like Blizzard, for example, I know you don't have to have a degree to work there. Anyways, back to your original question. Your best bet on getting work at a studio that requires that says they require a degree, like on their website or something, is going to be to go to like conventions or expos where they're going to be reviewing portfolios and show them your work in person. If you're just sending your stuff in, a lot of times they have filters that will just automatically go through resumes and submissions and remove any that don't have degrees if that's one of their things. But if you go in person, they're willing to look at anyone's portfolio, regardless of whether you have a degree or not. So if you can get there in person at expos and stuff like that, like Disney, I'm pretty sure Pixar, Blizzard, all those big companies, if you go to like CTN, or probably I'm guessing they'll be at Lightbox Expo this year, I don't know. But if you go to a place like that, you can just show up in person and have a recruiter look straight at your portfolio and tell you, if they're interested, if they want to work with you more. Or the other great thing is that if they're not interested, if you submit online, and they're not interested, you probably just won't hear anything back. But if you could go in person, most of the time they'll give you some feedback on why you're not quite at the level they're looking for, or what you could work on. And that's some really valuable information, because you're getting it directly from the people who are looking for artists, what they would need you to change in order to get hired. And that's something that you could act on immediately and start working on. So save up some money, go to an expo and start showing your work around, and then taking that feedback and implementing it until you're at the point where they're going to hire you. I'm going to say it again, because there's going to be people who be like, I didn't get a degree and I tried to get a job and I couldn't get one. You have to work super hard and be really good at what you do. You can't just be like, I like to draw, I'm an artist, no one wants to hire me though. Well, it's probably because your work isn't good enough. You can't be competing with other people in college, or even you can't be competing with people in high school. You need to be comparing your art to people who are already in the industry. Those are the people who your art needs to compare with. So anyways, rant over. There you go. Super long answer to your brief question. You're welcome.
Sophia's asking, what are some of the challenges of working at home?
Oh, that's a good question too. And don't think I didn't notice we're out of time, you sneaky people. I'm just finishing this up. Challenges of working at home. Yeah, I would say the biggest one is you really got to have some good self-discipline, because either way. When I was super poor, like couldn't even pay rent, just like grinding it out, living in a really ghetto apartment with a big empty pool that has like been empty for years, and punks would come sneak in and skateboard in it and stuff like that, and the management would come out and yell at them in Spanish, like classic movie ghetto apartment complex. Good times. Anyways, that was pretty motivating, because I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore, so I'm going to work super hard and like get better so that I can get out of this situation, or I'm going to make these courses so I don't have to keep being like this. Honestly, the biggest motivator was that I set some goals for myself, and the big key to them was that I set rewards attached to them, where if I hit this goal, then I get to do this, or I get to buy this. And two of the biggest ones that made me really bust my ass to get out of there was I really wanted a dog, but the apartment complex we were living in wouldn't let us have dogs. And so I told myself, if I can make this much money a month for 3 months in a row, then on Udemy, then we can get a different apartment. We can move to a nicer place and I can get a dog. And then the other one was, if I can make this much money a month, 3 months in a row, because we only had one car and it was my wife's car and she took it to work. And so I was just basically stuck at home all day or had to walk everywhere, which sucked. Because it's not like we lived in Utah, so everything's really spread out. You can't just, it's not like New York or a big city where you can walk everywhere. But yeah, so I really was like, okay, my dream car was a Jeep Wrangler, big off-roading car. And I was like, if I can make this money 3 months in a row, this much, I can buy this car. And then after that, if I can make this much, I can move apartments, whatever. And I hit both of those in the very next 3 months that I had made that goal. And it was a pretty substantial amount of money. It was a pretty big jump in revenue for myself. But those rewards really pushed me to just be like, I really, really, really want those. If you don't set goals like that, it's really easy to just kind of waste your time and kind of mope around and, not get a whole lot of stuff done. And then the other challenge is that, especially even now, because pretty much all my income is mostly residual, I don't have to keep making courses or YouTube videos if I didn't want to. I could just stop and I could still live off of the money that comes in from the course sales I make. And so that temptation means if I want, I could just sleep in all day long. There's no reason why I can't. I just sleep until noon every single day and stay up all night and play video games or, do whatever I want, watch Netflix. And there's actually a little part of time where I kind of did that a little bit where I was like, well, it's fine, I just go relax. And that is a temptation, but very quickly I just realized it was so unfulfilling. Even though I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted and not have to work anymore, I realized I was much happier when I chose to make myself work anyways, despite the fact that I didn't have to. Which is why, even though I could sleep in and I don't have any reason why I have to get up, I still wake up at 7 o'clock every day, because I think it is important. And the difference, though, is that I control my time. I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because I'm wanting to be doing that, But yeah, that's the biggest one because if you're in a studio and you don't show up for work, they just fire you. But if you're at home and you don't show up for work, so to speak, you don't go looking for clients, you don't work on personal work to put in your portfolio, no one's there to be like, hey, what are you doing, man? Get back to work. And it can be really easy to just slide into that temptation of not doing anything. So yeah, it's definitely not all roses and butterflies when you're self-employed. You still have to be pretty disciplined. I would say more disciplined than if you're working for another company or a studio. But anyways, I'm feeling, if you can't tell, I'm pretty chatty today. You guys asked me what's your favorite color? I'm like, well, it depends on the blah, blah, blah. And then by the end, I'm talking about my favorite animal. All right. I think we're going to call it good today. I think this turned out pretty good. Looks like a crocodile to me, but I'm going to flip it. I don't know. I just have a feeling that it's going to look wonky, but just a little tiny bit. There's a little thing we could fix here. I think it's the eye. Yeah, that's better. Sweet. Yeah, I learned a lot on this one. I like how this guy turned out. He looks pretty creepy. All right. What do you guys think? Can you post emojis in the chat?
I don't know. Yeah, you can.
Sweet. Do that gladiator thumbs up or thumbs down thing. If it should be executed, thumbs down. I'll delete it right now. If you give me a thumbs up, I'll keep it and post it. All right. Well, that was a good conversation today. Be sure to post your stuff in the live or in the Facebook group. Share what you're working on. I don't comment a ton just because I'm pretty busy, but I do go through and like look at a lot of the drawings and like the ones I think are pretty cool. And I'm actually pretty impressed. You could just like see how some of you guys are really starting to improve already. And so it's fun to see what kind of creative ideas people come up with and stuff. So I am honored that you want to spend your time every morning drawing with me. All right, enough noodling. Any last questions we got in there? Thanks for
just a lot of thanks and
only one thumbs up,
great.
no thumbs down. I guess I'm not deleting it. Thanks. It would have been real sad. Why did I have the opacity down the whole time on this? Oh well. Anyways, all right. See y'all later. Have a good one. Tomorrow, same time, 10 o'clock. We'll be drawing.